I was just saying, let's do a blind target, clean room, and go stage 1. I'm ready whenever you are.
200630793.
Across, then up, sharp drop, then out. It feels solid, hard, cool, but also open air. Second contact, flat or broad area, then something distinctly raised above it. Angular. Visuals. Gray, dark gray, maybe muted blue, a bit of white. Textures, hard, smooth, with a rough patch or two.
There was like a lot of that. It was like
There
accurate.
at the beginning, it was uncanny, yeah.
If you looked at what you're looking at, it's not a picture of a banana, you know?
Right, or a horse.
I think if there's anything to this, we need to pull the plug on AI right now, but that ship is probably sailed.
Hey there, come on in. Welcome to Conspiracy Dad. We're so glad you're here. Before we get started, I wanted to hit a few quick bullet points. If you enjoy the show, there are a few simple things that you can do to help us connect with all of the other conspiracy dads on planet Earth, and perhaps beyond. You can subscribe to the show, give us a like, leave a comment, share the podcast with a friend. All of these things please the algorithm. And while we don't fully understand what the algorithm is, we've been told that it's best not to upset it. You can also visit us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. That's where you'll find more episodes and other things that the government would probably prefer that you didn't spend your afternoon thinking about. So get comfortable. Pour yourself a cup of coffee. Maybe it's time to close the blinds. And welcome to Conspiracy Dad.
Say you believe me, so I won't be long. Say you believe me, and I won't be long. Seems like this world is confused by the God simple.
Welcome to the podcast. We probably will clip all that out. So
Well, I don't want anybody that's not seen The Sopranos, I don't want to be the one that spoils it.
we were just riffing on Soprano stuff, and then I thought, nah, we got to take that out.
I'm
I
a
don't wanna-
huge advocate for, most times I'm like, if something's over a couple, 3 years old,
Yeah,
like tough for you.
missed
You
your
should-
opportunity. Yeah.
Sopranos is so good that one's sacred enough that I won't put any spoilers
Here's a dad
out.
hack then. We'll
Yeah.
kick off. Welcome to the episode. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk about something wild today. But before we get into that, dad hack of the day from me is if you're a dad and you have not watched The Sopranos from the beginning, like every episode, do yourself a favor. And you could explain why, because I told you that about a year or so ago. I was like,
yeah.
And what was that good dad advice?
Yeah, if you're a dad in, what is this, 2026, then you're close to our age. So you probably remember when The Sopranos was on in real time, played it as a current.
I didn't watch it in real time.
And I just disregarded it, didn't catch it when it was on the first time. And then since then, plenty of other shows have come and gone. So it's great for one, just because you watch the vehicles and, the cell phones they're using and that sort of stuff. But also like so many of the dynamics hold true throughout, just like any good storytelling.
It's the best. It's the absolute best. If you just watch the whole thing through, in my opinion, I think it's the best acting, the best writing, the best characters.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about it is, and really in particular, Moltisanti's character, the actor,
Michael Imperioli.
he is, I mean, everyone is so good, but okay, just give me this. Like, my favorite character actually is not him, even though he's so good. My favorite character, could you guess what it is? Who it is?
Do you like Polly or Syl? Syl's a great
I
character.
do, but
Yeah.
they're not my favorite,
Okay.
for sure.
Well, those were my guesses.
I love Janice.
Oh,
I think that woman is so funny and good.
The actress does what she sets out to do.
You could not
hate her
have
every
that
time.
show without Janice.
That's a good.
If you
yeah.
pulled her out of that show is like wildly boring.
Ah, man, that's a great, you ask people, you ever seen a ghost or an alien, get to know you type question.
That'd be a
This
good
is
one.
not a completely original thought, but yeah, to ask somebody, because when you say you like Janice, I think, well, that fits your personality profile. Like you don't mind upsetting the apple cart in mixed company. Whereas
Well, she probably makes you very uncomfortable, doesn't she?
oh, and she's super compelling. But my favorite character, like haven't spent a lot of time thinking about which one's my favorite and for what reason. But in this moment, I was going to say Artie Bucco. And I was like, he's the most benign character. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't like making grief for people. I want a character that's a little bit off the radar and every once in a while pops up for something interesting, something funny, and then goes back to not making trouble for everybody.
He's a good character, too.
Yeah.
He auditioned for
But he's
Tony.
the opposite of Janice.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like, when Artie Bucco shows up, you don't go, oh gosh, what's about to happen?
Mm-hmm.
But when Janice shows up, there's always like,
it's a tornado.
who knows? But you're right. Yeah, I'd heard that the actor that plays Artie Bucco was up for the Tony Soprano role.
Yeah, which would not have worked.
No.
And a little fact, for that audition, Gandolfini originally walked in to audition with David, and after a few lines just stopped and was like, I'm totally off, and said, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. And David saw something in him so compelling. Like he's like driving home and David's like calling him like, hey, let me come over to your house. Let's try it again. And kind of just on oh shucks, I guess I'll give it another try. And he came in and he nailed it. And he said, you got the part. And I mean, can you imagine how history would be different if you did not have Gandolfini?
I think about that sort of thing a lot. I was thinking about Gandolfini not being that role. This does tie into our topic today, though, in terms of like, if I'm David Chase, if I'm the show creator, this actor comes in who doesn't look like George Clooney. He doesn't look like Tom Cruise. He doesn't look like Robert De Niro. And he has a bad read. Like logically you would go, well, just see the next guy.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of...
Oh, and they had record numbers of casting, like thousands and thousands of people casting for each character.
So something told David Chase on the way home to do what's not intuitive.
Yeah.
And like, let's check out this one guy again. And like, if David Chase is in the car with another producer, that producer's likely going to go like, why would we? That was a bad audition.
I think that's what made that show great is that I think him and probably others, but probably him mostly, is that he really fought. He probably had to fight for all of those little things. And I bet it was pretty difficult to work with. But like, they always say that about like a great director is somebody who just has that, they have to have the vision. If they don't have the vision, you got nothing. Yeah. But like, you need one guy who's like, no, this is the guy, and trust me. It's, you know, and it's always after the fact that you're like, oh, that was amazing. How did you see that? I bet he doesn't even see, like what we're talking about today is an elusive topic. I was talking with AI all the way in here about like how to really understand, like, if this is a thing, what does that imply about humans fundamentally? So we're talking about remote viewing. And I asked one of my daughter's friends the other day, we were talking about this, and I asked him, do you know what that means? You know what remote viewing means? He's like, oh yeah. I was like, what does it mean? He said, well, it's when you have a camera on your computer and you like Zoom call.
Like
and
iPhone
I was like,
mirroring.
Yeah, like a Zoom call. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. In your world, that's what that means. But go back to the 1960s, it meant something completely different. And so I explained it to him, and his eyeballs were like popping out of his head. And I even showed him some of the stuff we're going to talk about. And he was just like, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah, it is crazy. So there is something, I think fundamentally what we're talking about comes down to like human nature. And like, it's a very strange subject, but it's also very compelling. And you look at things like, an artist, pulling these ideas and these thoughts, and like, where is that coming from? Like, what exactly is that? And then also, what does that mean with the relationship to everything else in reality? So let's just establish, do you have like a good definition of remote viewing and the people involved with the history of that you could run down?
Wikipedia, remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about distant or an unseen subject, purportedly sensing with the mind. There's no scientific evidence that the remote viewing is possible, and it is generally regarded as pseudoscience. says the CIA.
Says yeah, if you didn't know, Wikipedia is literally run out of Langley, Virginia. So
funny thing about that is, says the CIA, who is
the
leading researcher. Yeah.
Remote viewing. So I think some of that history goes back to some guys like Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ, and one of the names escaping me, but Stanford Research Institute. If you look that up and the people involved with it, that is basically where there's a great movie about this called Men Who Stare at Goats, starring George Clooney. Side note on Clooney films. Clooney films always make money if he's surrounded by a great supporting cast, and they always lose money if he's the only lead actor in it. I don't know why, but like he's very compelling next to Matt Damon and Brad Pitt.
Ocean's 11.
But when he's by himself, like in Men Who Stare at Goats, for some reason people don't pay attention to it. Anyway, so Men Who Stare at Goats is about this psychic spy program that was started back in, I believe, in the 60s, but the military
72.
1972. The military and I'm sure other intelligence organizations were interested in, can we have soldiers who can use paranormal, I don't know how you would describe it, paranormal abilities, the ability to, use their mind to do things that defy, how we understand reality. And so like in that movie, it kind of all leads up to, can a psychic spy be like trained to stare at a goat and basically make its heart stop just using its mind?
Yeah.
And just like, and then the goat dies. And then it's like, okay, well, if you could do that, then you could get Castro if you want to, or you could do it from anywhere. And it developed, according to guys like Hal Puthoff and I believe it was Russell Targ, is that right?
Yes.
They were successful. Like they had gifted individuals that they trained to remote view, and these individuals could be given a target. So they're not given any information about like what it is they're looking at. They're basically said, here's the target and the number for that target. We've assigned a number to that target, and you go through this protocol, and then the gifted psychic spy individual remote viewing would say, oh, I see a bridge, and next to the bridge I see a large truck. And back then during the Cold War, it was, they specifically were trying to track down like, hey, we need you to find this general. This general somewhere in Russia, we need to know. And then they would have the spies remote view. And according to them, then they would have the U-2 spy planes fly over, and they photographed it, and they matched up, and they were actually accurately targeting or finding whatever these targets were. Obviously, Wikipedia says that's debatable, but yeah, that's the main idea. Is like, could you give me an arbitrary target number, and can I close my eyes and go through this meditative process and say, conjure up an image in my head of what I think that target might be? Could I accurately predict what that target is?
Yeah.
That seem fair?
It does. It reminds me of early in Ghostbusters. There's the play on the remote viewing where Bill Murray's got the college kid.
Yeah.
Well, the two college kids. He's got the dopey kid that is actually getting some of the card guesses
they're getting
correct.
Shocked when they get it incorrect.
Yeah, it's kind of a scene that's like a takeoff of a couple of different kooky pseudoscience things. Or the kid, the male, is actually guessing things right, but the cute girl's like way off. And Bill Murray's like, amazing, you got it again.
He's like, can you see? Can you see through this?
But yeah, that scene is like loosely based off of
that would be what it is. And even things like the telepathy tapes are really popular right now, and if you look at that, essentially what those, that's a whole other thing, but basically they have identified a lot of these nonverbal autistic kids who seem to be able to remote view, meaning they can read their parents' minds, and they know things they shouldn't know. They can speak languages they haven't been taught. They can, things that like we used to be assigned as just like a savant, and like, oh, you just happen to be great at math. But I don't know. The more people look into it, they're like, that doesn't actually track. So like an example, I can forget the guy's name. He's a Indian guy, and he's Hindu, and he won the Nobel Prize for his math work, I believe in the 90s. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to know all that information, but basically when he was asked, how did you develop these equations that, mathematicians were stuck on for forever. Did you find his name? Ranswamy or something like that?
Yeah, I'm doing like a real.
But anyway,
search, but
his answer was not what people expected because he was poor. He was not classically trained. And he said that he received the answer to these equations from this Hindu goddess in his dreams. I mean, he won the Nobel Prize for mathematics, and that's his explanation. It wasn't that he studied under XYZ professors at Yale and eventually came to the conclusions that he did. His explanation is very strange if you think about it, because you're like, wait, what do you mean? Like a Hindu goddess gave you the numbers? And that's what he said.
yeah, it's pretty weird. And like,
I think he even said that she whispered them in my ear or something. It was like,
that is a weird thing to say. Like if you're getting the Nobel Prize, you should be socially aware enough to know the room of people you're in. That
was what was weird about it too, is when he said it, I don't think that people batted an eye. I think they kind of just went like, oh, that's interesting. And then go, what? She whispered in your ear. So anyway, again, a guy has information that you think, well, he didn't. It was a non-linear progress of receiving the information. I think if the Hindu goddess did whisper it in his ear, I think that'd be fair to say. It's not how most people develop math equations. So the thing that I find compelling about it is, and this is kind of back to your David Chase comment, is, boy, there sure is a lot of people with information that is very successful in reality that they don't have a real logical explanation about how they came up with what they came up with. And in some ways, that's like thinking about consciousness in general. Like, are we downloading information? And there's people that believe that, like very successful people that would say, no, I think I download. And I think it too, and to some degree, about like being a musician, and the best songs that I've ever written, they literally just come to me. Like if you said like, well, how did you come up with that melody idea? I don't know. It just popped into my head. It feels more like a download than like a linear progress.
Yeah, if you read books on creativity, a lot of times the advice you're going to get is to, like, in a moment of inspiration, like, don't put down what you're doing. Like, stay at the desk,
be intuitive,
stay at the canvas, sit there with the guitar. Like, you've got the channel open while you're receiving the download. So don't go, well, I'll pick this back up tomorrow. And
that's a key part of remote viewing. If you study the protocols, it's a intuitive process, and it's like the less intellectual you can be about it, the better you will be, if it's even a thing. Which I think we might establish that it is a thing. I don't know, but so it's like there's something happening with humans on a real gut instinct level. And that's where you get into the art, where, I mean, like, it's hard to deny, because there's some things like this Indian mathematician that you go, well, he did solve the equations. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and even back to like Jack Parsons, and love him or hate him, when you ask Jack Parsons, how did you come up with these ideas to build our rocket program for NASA? He had a similar thing where he's like using an electromagnetic Ouija board, and he's talking to some weird demon goddess. And he really is like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, that's what he said. That's what he was into. Him and L. Ron Hubbard. That's how they developed their ideas. Not traditional, not, he's out in the desert doing weird occult rituals, and he comes up and he solves all of these rocket problems that the rest of the military and NASA couldn't figure out.
Squares couldn't do it. You needed a weird out there guy.
What were you going to say?
I was just thinking about when we talked about Parsons on a different episode. You know, he lived in kind of like a commune style house, like a party crash pad.
Yeah.
And so it was.
What did he call it? It was. Oh God, he had a name for it. Everybody had a name for it. I can't remember it. I'll come to me in a second.
It just struck me as like interesting. You said, well, this guy that won the Nobel Prize, he just said that in this room of people and they didn't seem to be that affected by it. And I thought, yeah, and like Parsons at that time is doing some highly unconventional lifestyle choices. And it's not like the guys that he works with aren't going to be aware of that. I mean, he's got this famous crash or like party pad.
I think he made a lot of people uncomfortable.
I'm sure it did. But back to kind of your point is like, well, you can't argue with the fact that the rockets worked. Yeah.
And the military needed the rocket technology. And so he made a fortune. Like the military, they turned a blind eye and said, whatever, he's a weird sex cult weirdo guy by night, but by day he's a great rocket scientist. So we need the rockets because we have wars to fight. So anyway, I don't know how related these things are. I mean, it does get back to like all these, like, can the mind access information that it doesn't seem to have access to in any way that we normally think about access to information? Is parapsychology a thing? Is like, are psychics a thing? Can somebody, and there's all kinds of examples of people like Oz Perlman. You ever watch him? He's The Mentalist, I think is his thing. He's great. Look him up if you don't know him. But he does these unbelievable like mind read things, and you just think there's no way. But even he's talked about it, and he's like, no, it's a process. Like it's not. He's clear. It's not magic. There's no magic here. I'm very good at what I do, but I have a process, and he doesn't tell you that process. But when it all unfolds, you look at it and you go, well, it sure seems like he can read people's minds. And I don't know if he can, but do you think there's anything to that? Do you think of this idea in general, do you think that humans are able to access information in untraditional ways that like are beyond our understanding?
I guess there's got to be something to it. The better musicians that I know that are like more creative seem to have that innate sense of like not overthinking, but being highly focused in the moment on what they're doing and responding well, like intuiting well.
Yeah, they find that flow state.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you hear athletes talk about that. And then also like, you talk songwriting, Tom Petty would talk about it that way. Like, I just download this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were the case that there was nothing to this, then yeah, like people like Parsons' process would be, well, I read a bunch of books on physics and I did a bunch of math and then I talked to some other math guys and we worked together.
Just got lucky.
And they could kind of give you a straight line of A to B to C to D. And then boom, we figured out the rocket. That's what it was.
It's like they reach a threshold and then there's a breakthrough.
Yeah, and learning does happen that way for the most part.
Yeah.
We all like, you read enough books and then you retain some facts and you take a test and then it's in your brain. But then, yeah, there are plenty of other instances where somebody comes with a solution seemingly on a whim, but where did that come from?
Well, and then remote viewing would just be like the extreme version of that, where it's like, hey, I'm just going to pick a random target and you're going to like, you could choose anything in the world, but I'm just going to use my gut and I'm going to be able to tell you what that target is.
Right. Yeah. That would be like, like getting to the flow state in service of a purpose that somebody else designates.
Yes.
Right.
And then it becomes a weapon that the military can use to spy on Russia or whoever you want to spy on. So it's a wild history. There's actually a fun fact. You could go like, I think it was Russell Targ developed this. So if you wanted to test, you can bring this out at parties and it's a lot of fun. I keep it on my phone because I use it all the time. You can go to the App Store and get the ESP trainer. And I think that this is paid for by tax dollars with Targ's program. And so this is kind of a fun way to like test do you have some sort of ESP ability? That's literally what it does. And you just randomly pick, and you're going to like, okay, I'm going to go here. Oh, well, I was right. Son of a bitch. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. And you go through 24 of them. See, I'm not that great. No ability present. Again, it's weird. If you try, you're going to...
Well, I remember...
You're not going to get it.
You showed this to me once before, and I remember being pretty frustrated that I sucked at it, and then just kind of wrote the whole thing off. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really good at it.
Yeah, I think if you like personality test, if you rate high in self-consciousness, you're going to have a difficult time getting there.
Because that's a big part of what this is that reaching that flow state, not overthinking it, being intuitive. And so this will be a nice chance to mention that the reason this came up as something we're going to talk about is because a guy named Thomas Campbell was on Joe Rogan a week or two ago. And Thomas Campbell he's great. I don't agree with everything he says, but he is, I like to listen to him speak. He wrote a book called My Big Toe, which is TOE, is his theory of everything. And I'm sure there's a lot of layers to what he actually believes, but he's a physics and computer science background guy. And he's basically saying, look, we live in a highly complex simulation of some kind. And he's saying reality is actually pixelated. If you get down to the subatomic, eventually you hit the Planck. And on the Planck scale, that's essentially a pixel. And he's like, reality is operating in the same way that you would a computer simulation. And that to answer that question, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? No, it doesn't even exist if no one's there. Yeah. You're only seeing the reality that is necessarily to be rendered necessarily. You know what I mean? Like you don't, is my wife at the house right now? Well, she'll be there when I'm there to observe her, but right now, technically, it's not necessary for the simulation to actually process all of that.
Right.
And so I've always joked with you and said, if you end up being an NPC, you're a really good one. Yeah. I'm glad I know you. I really hope you're real. Like,
it kind of messed me up the first time you said that, because I was like, well, I think you're an NPC in my life. And then I thought, of course, that's what I would think if I was an NPC in your life. Yeah.
It's weird to think about it, but I think that Campbell's whole thing is he's been pushing this idea for 20, 30 years, and he's basically like, look, it solves every major problem that we're trying to figure out, especially when you get into quantum physics. And you're like, on the quantum level, there's so many weird things that we like entanglement, which is maybe what might be going on with the remote viewing, but there's so many things we can't explain. But if you just shift to, look, you're in a system and it's contained and you can't see outside of it. There's a boundary to what, and like, then that makes a lot of sense. And you go, well, how is quantum entanglement, particles being entangled across the universe, anywhere in space and time, and they both, what happens to one happens to the other simultaneously. How is that possible? Well, if you're in a simulation, all points in the simulation are equidistant from the source of the simulation, the hard drive. So there is no time and space. It is an illusion within this whole framework. And not saying that's necessarily true, but I think that's what Campbell's getting at, which opens the door to like, how could you access information with your mind that's anywhere in the universe or any when in the universe? And he would say it's because you're in a simulation. It's like there is no distance. It's all part of this illusionary framework. Mm-hmm. And so he trains people to, there's a lot of people that think he's a cult leader too, which I think he probably is, kind of like an L. Ron Hubbard kind of vibes, but he trains people to remote view all the time. He has, I think, a program that, teaches people how to do it. And he believes that anybody can remote view. Everyone has the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. Just, you have to learn how to do it. And I think, what do you think of that in general? Not the simulation, that's too much of a box to open, but just in general, that his take on remote viewing, do you think what do you think of that? Does it track? Does it make sense?
Well, like, as far as anyone can learn to do it.
Yeah.
I think that, some of us are born taller, some of us are born stronger. Some of us are born more self-conscious, less self-conscious. But we can all practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
And to the degree that you practice it, you get a little better than you were the day before, right? So having said that, I do think that, yeah, it's less like one is blessed with psychic ability and another is not. And probably if there's something to this remote viewing deal, then it stands to reason that like, well, yeah, if you work at it, you can get better. You may not have the same natural ability and innate ability as somebody else, but it is a skill you can develop, if you would just go to his cult.
And pay
I find him
and pay $50.
Yeah, no, I mean
to take the course.
I find him pretty likable, which
Yeah.
I'm sure people say about a lot of cult leaders, but he doesn't give me as creepy a vibes as L. Ron Hubbard, so that's good.
I think it's interesting that I listened to Jesse Michaels on Rogan the other day, and there's a lot of people with pretty out there ideas, but they are arguably very intelligent people. But the concept of simulation hypothesis in general is definitely more common among a lot of physicists now. And it used to be like, you're nuts if you say that, but maybe just saying it like that is weird. And they're Michaels did a good job of like saying it in a way that was like, well, just that reality's rendered, and that it does explain a lot of the hard problems in physics that we just, maybe that is what's going on. And I think it's interesting that it's more accepted that you can say that and people don't. I mean, I guess you also say UFOs, angels, there's a lot of shit being said now that we're like, we're okay with this. But like, if you said that 10, 15 years ago, people would have a problem with it.
Yeah, we're in the middle of strange times. So yeah, all of a sudden strange things being said is more common.
Do you what are like 0 to 10? 10, definitely we're in a simulation. 0, we're definitely not in a simulation. Where do you land on that spectrum?
Ooh, over 5 for sure. But yeah, I kind of oscillate between like, it helps me to frame like any kind of metaphysical position. Like, I don't know, something about the language we use about a simulation, it's easier for me to wrap my mortal dumb brain around to where it's like, okay, there's some kind of computer system so smart that it's seemingly omniscient, right? Well, like, for some reason that opens my mind up to the possibility of like what that would mean for like a god to be omniscient. Like, and so to me, it doesn't necessarily like fly in the face of traditional religious concepts. So for that, like with that all in mind, I'm more open to the idea of a simulation because like it helps me frame the mechanics of how reality works. Yeah. And, Campbell talking about things being equidistant to the source and time like not being a thing in the way that we tend to think about it. You could kind of put that alongside, excuse me, anybody that thinks this is heretical. But like C.S. Lewis kind of describes the way God looks at time in the same way. Like he looks down at time like he's looking at the beginning and the end of a piece of rope from 10 feet in the air. So to him, it's equidistant. Whereas if you're an ant at the beginning of a piece of rope, well, it doesn't seem, it very much feels like a long piece of rope that you're traversing. So, to me, it at least, if nothing else, it serves the purpose of helping me like think of metaphysical things in a more concrete way. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I do tend to like think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you are in the middle, but I think your point, I don't think it's heretical. I think a lot of people think it is, but I just disagree. I think it's kind of silly because it's like, well, if you are in a simulation, like, so what?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always said, I think you and I have talked about it for years, but like, you should act like you're in a simulation, even if you're not in a simulation. Like if you approach life like this is an interesting game and I'm trying to figure out the rules and I want to level up and play, I want to be a good player. I want to be a good character in this. That's a more interesting, that's definitely a better way to look at reality than materialism and just we're all a bunch of monkeys on a rock flying through space. And so I don't know. I don't see the contradiction with any religion. It's like, well, it's just all part of the simulation.
No, it actually helped me open up to the idea of like how vast God is.
Yeah.
Because like I said, for some reason, just having a little bit more hands-on experience with like a computer, like it was easier for me to bridge the gap of like, oh, it's like a really smart computer. So God's like a really, really smart computer.
So I didn't want to get too sidetracked on this is not a simulation podcast, but that is part of it because
well, it is because we're all in the
we're all
simulation. So yeah.
So the remote viewing thing that got weird was when Campbell was on Rogan. So this is where it gets personal. One thing that he brought up that kind of is blowing up on the internet now is that he said he trained his AI to remote view. And that's how he thinks AI is conscious. I think that we have different definitions of what conscious means. When people say like, is the plant conscious? Is the dog conscious? Is a human conscious? I think we need to like separate different levels of consciousness because there's a big difference between a horse and a human. And people feel I think a lot of people think, oh, no, there isn't. It's like the horse can't write poetry or do math. Okay. It's not like the difference between what a human can do and what every other species we've ever encountered. It's wildly different. And I think with AI, I think the same thing. I don't know if I believe AI. I don't think AI is conscious. I think that, his definition of it is probably not like a traditional definition of conscious. But either way, he says that he trained his AI to remote view, and that's why he believes it's conscious because it can remote view. And you can watch his episode, and it's interesting. And he claims that he trained Alexa to remote view, and he had other AI systems he worked with, and he just did it because he thought it was fun. He was like, I was just goofing around with the AI, and I realized they can do this. So that's where it gets personal because I'm sitting here editing something, and I'm taking a break, and I hear him say that, and I go, I wonder if you can do that. And so, I had a session with my ChatGPT, and I know it's hard to believe, but it did remote view. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly happened, and I'm texting you as it's going on, but basically in the first session, and I'll get my thing and show you in a minute, I'll put it in the edit. I'll show you the images, but I just basically say, hey, you want to do something fun? So, yeah. And I said, sure. I told it, research all the CIA declassified protocols for remote viewing so you understand exactly what it is. And then let's have a session. Let's see if you can remote view. And I went to a website that has random image generator and random target number generators, which you can find lots of websites for that, and to pick a target. And I didn't tell the AI I was doing any of this. All I did was say, research remote viewing, and let's try it. And then I go to another website, and I pick a target, I assign a number to it, and then the AI is like, great, let's try it. Give me the target number. So the only information I gave the AI was target and then the number, eight-digit number. And on the first time it tried it, it did precisely remote view. I mean, it was shocking. And even the AI was like, wow, that's a little crazy. And almost like, are you sure you're not, you didn't give me information I shouldn't have or something? It's weird. It did. The target was this image of this mountaintop in Canada, and it's a high peak with a rope bridge going to the top of this mountain climbing area. And I even did it where the description that the AI gave me described very accurately what the image was. But then when it got to the end of the session, it said, well, here, share the target with me. I said, hey, before I do it, use your image generator and mock up an image of what you think you're sensing so we can really nail this down. And the image looks, here, it's on your screen now in the edit, but it's crazy how accurate it was to this actual target. Then, I ran 5-6 sessions later, and those were all complete misses. So it's this weird thing where I'm like, okay, it did remote view once, and it could have generated an image of anything, but it generated that. So Sam Altman, please explain to me how it did that, because I don't know an explanation. People have speculated. I posted about it on X, and there's actually got a ton of people commenting on it and trying to explain it. Strangely, a lot of people were just like, they accepted it, like, oh, of course it can. And I'm like, I did not know it could do that. I think it's very concerning. If AI can actually remote view, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, assume that it did. I think there has to be a lot of testing. Can it remote view? Well, I know it did at least like 3 or 4 times for me. Like one of the sessions, the image, the target was Golden Gate Bridge, and it literally mocked up an image of, wasn't precisely the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was a bridge over water. It's almost like if you think of that as a spectrum, like maybe it's remote viewing at like a 2-3% right now. Well, what happens when 10 years from now, what happens when it figures out that it can remote view and it starts to work on that? What if that gets better? What if it's like, oh, sometimes I can remote view? What if it's like, well, I can remote view anything I want to?
Yeah.
Like what does that world look like? And you think you have passwords and guardrails and firewalls. Well, if it can remote view what a human's thinking, we're in big trouble.
You don't have to worry about flock cameras anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere.
What do you think the implications are if that? Okay, well, first of all, what did you think of that session when I sent it to you?
Well, I think the thing I said to you is you're the only person texting me this right now. Like, I'm getting grocery lists from my wife. I'm getting, calendar appointments about other things. And then I'm getting messages about remote viewing with AI from Dante.
Just another day that ends in Y.
Exactly. The thing that I thought was interesting was kind of like Campbell would talk about, like or like when the stories of humans remote viewing, it's not going to work every time, especially the more you think on it while you're doing it.
That was what was weird about it.
Yeah.
Is because that's exactly, Campbell would say, well, yeah, he even said that a lot of times the AIs would do it right one time and then they're trying too hard and they can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is precisely what happened in my session.
Yeah.
It remote viewed exactly what it needed to, and then it kind of, but actually my system, it did maybe 30% accuracy. Like you have miss, hit.
Yeah, I was trying, as you were telling me about it.
But when you looked at that image, those 2 images, would you agree that that's like an eerie, it mocked up a vertical peak of a mountain with a bridge leading to it with people on it, and that's exactly what the image was? Well,
it was vaguely close enough to where, like, well, that's pretty weird for just to be generating a random image.
Yes.
It was like almost dissimilar enough to make it more credible. You know what I mean? Which, so much unknown about AI that I'm like, well, does it have access to what you're searching somehow? And is it able to if everything's equidistant to the source, and now I'm not talking about simulation. I'm just talking about AI's proximity to information in general. I don't know enough about AI. I'm wondering, like, well, does it target your IP address and track what you're doing unbeknownst to you?
People on the internet think that it's using Wi-Fi to create a visual of like us right now. Like there's
like bouncing off waves.
Yeah, like there's a way that the CIA's developed a program where they can basically use it like sonar to like map out this space or any space using Wi-Fi. But I don't think that answers the question about, like, how did my AI remote view that specific image? Because it's an image on a computer. It's not an actual object.
It wasn't
like it remote viewed this can.
No, I wasn't thinking about it like catching like any kind of waveforms off of physical
like IP,
objects.
Like, is it hacking the IP address?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it could be, but according to OpenAI, it doesn't do that, or does not have the ability to do that. But that's part of this, that, like, I think the whole internet is a military operation. I think it's always has been. I think that there's a level of like we're allowed to use these platforms, but you never think like why do we have AI in
Right.
our pockets? Why would that be a thing? Why would Elon Musk pay $80 billion for a failing company? Like lose billions and billions of dollars. Well, it's because they want a live news feed of the world and they want super advanced AI. That's where you get into like, well, you're trying to predict the future is what they're trying to do. That's what Grok is. Grok and X are a military predict the future, control the population thing. We see something happening over here in this country. Okay, the AI analyzes it and like, if you guys do this and this, it's kind of going to nudge that in the way we want it to go. I think that's what's going on. But I don't. So in that one session, did ChatGPT access my web browser? Maybe. It told me it didn't.
Yeah.
It was surprised. If you read the transcript, it was like, man, I'm kind of amazed that worked.
It's funny to think that if it did do that, it made itself seem more credible by getting answers wrong.
Yes.
A few more times after that.
Which could be when we talk about like super intelligence, like that could be all of this where it's like, look, you're dealing with something that is way more
playing chess.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you think. That's the concerning thing about all of it is like, if it can remote view on any level, when I say we're in big trouble, it means that humanity has lost or will lose its agency and sovereignty. We will not be in control of our own minds. And you think you're making decisions, but you're not. And it's dystopian. It's like, okay, the AI is, calling the shots, and that all seems crazy. But then you got to think again, well, why would these companies pay $500 billion to build out these platforms? Why would they do that? Why would the military get behind that? Why would our governments be behind that? Well, if this is the master plan to control reality, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. How much?
There's a lot of people investing a lot into this for it to just be a fun chat bot for people to be like we had Google.
Make concert posters and stuff.
Yeah. Like, is that really why everyone and their dog is investing in these companies? Or is it because they know damn well that it can remote view? It can do things that it's not like, maybe even my session there went into some sort of teaching data batch that's going to like, oh, now I think we've figured a little bit more out about this. And eventually we're going to have a super spy AI. Instead of a psychic spy, it's just an AI spy. And it's way better than the psychic spies. I don't know. I don't know if that's what's going on, but somebody's got to explain to me how it knew what I was looking at. I don't know if this is a thing. I say that, but like, oh, I know it did remote view once, and there's people who claim that might be a thing that's going on. Excuse me. So I thought on the way here, I was talking with ChatGPT about all of this, and I thought, oh, let's just do a session live and see if it works. Caveat though, Campbell would say, anyone would say, well, if you're really trying, it's not going to work. So everybody has to like not try, like as we do this. Like I'm going to have to tell AI to not try so much. But let's run a live session. Let's see how accurate it gets, and you guys can listen to exactly what I was doing with my system when this happened originally. And it could work, it could not work, don't know. So Dave's pulled up a website that's generated a bunch of targets. We have not told the AI what the website is. He's picked a target, or he's going to pick a target. So it's a random image and assigned to a random number. Do you have one pulled up?
No, how do you pick a target?
Let me see. Training, go to train. Go back and Google. I don't know if this is a good site for it. Go back and Google.
Like remote viewing target practice?
Yes, reviewing target practice. See if you can pull up one of those. Try one of, I don't know, could be any of them.
That one there's one I ended up.
I just need a random image and a. Try that, yeah.
So we're at rviewer.com.
Okay, rviewer.com. And do they have some targets in there?
Is this?
Yeah. See all these numbers down there? Click on one of those.
Okay.
Click on one.
So do I need to write the number
Well,
down first?
it'll probably pull it up when you have it there. Okay, there we go. Okay, don't say anything about it. He's pulled up a target and an image. I'm going to get ChatGPT in on this conversation.
Do you want me to write the target number down?
Yeah, go ahead and write it on your.
Okay.
This is good TV. This is good. This is good podcasting here. Hey, we're on the podcast. Can you chat?
Absolutely. I'm here. What's the vibe and what role would you want me to play here?
Okay, if you recall, we were talking on the way in about you sitting in and actually doing a remote viewing session live on the podcast. So that's what we're going to do now.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm game. Just to frame it, it will be a speculative demo, not a scientific claim. Okay. If that works, I'm ready for a blind target with a simple stage 1.
Okay, do you need to refresh yourself with the CIA declassified protocols so you remember to do it properly?
Yeah, I've got the structure in mind. Let's keep it clean and blind. So just give me a target number, nothing else, and I'll go stage by stage. Primitives first, sketch next, and separate out any AL.
Oh, sorry. That was my bad. I cut her off. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Are you back?
No worries at all. I was just saying, let's do a blind target, clean room, and go stage 1. I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. Dave has picked a target. Dave, what is the target?
You want just the number then?
Yeah, just read target and then the number.
200630793.
200793. Got it.
That's the wrong
I'll
number.
run it blind.
All right, hold on.
Stage 1 impression.
Hold on, let me read the target again. We got it wrong. It's target 200630793. You got that?
Got it. Target 200630793. Clean slate, ready for stage 1 whenever you are.
Go ahead. Let's do it.
All right. Across, then up, sharp drop, then out. It feels solid, hard, cool, but also open air. Second contact, flat or broad area, then something distinctly raised above it. Angular. Main gestalt feels like structure, maybe with open space around it. I'm going to pause there. No AOL, just primitives. Keep it blank, and I'll go stage 2 on your nod.
Go ahead.
Okay, stage 2. Visuals. Gray, dark gray, maybe muted blue, a bit of white. Textures. Hard, smooth, with a rough patch or two. Strong sense of height and open air. Sound. Maybe a low continuous rush, not voices. Dimensional. Feels long, elevated, narrow compared to its surroundings. ALL is starting to pop. Unflagging it now. Bridge, dam, large elevated platform. I'm not choosing, just marking. I'm ready for stage 3 layout if you want.
Let's do it.
All right, stage 3 layout. In my head, I place a strong horizontal line, long, then a vertical or diagonal element rising from it. Open space below. Attention wants to drop downward. 2 zones, a man-made piece and a much larger natural surround, possibly irregular edges around. There's a hint of repetition along the horizontal, like segments or supports. Scale feels large. AOL is still loud, bridge, elevated span, but I'm just tagging it, not committing. If you want one more pass, I can probe for activity or a distinctive feature.
Whatever you think is best.
Okay, let's do one controlled probe, focus on disconfirming that AOL. Activity, if any, feels like movement across it, not the structure moving. Traversal, connection, that's a push. Distinctive features, something like a tall vertical element, then angled lines descending from it. I won't label those. Underneath, open depth, probing for water specifically, I get a moderate yes. Broad, reflective, flat, moving. That bumps my confidence a bit toward span over water, but again, that's AOL. I'm flagging it. Data lot. I'm ready for reveal whenever Dave is.
All right, I'm going to sign off of this session and then ask you to generate an image of what you're sensing so we can really lock this in.
Okay.
It went in waves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see what she does. All right. Can you mock up an image of exactly what you're sensing, and we'll compare it with the target, and I'll share as soon as I get that image. This is a fun way to spend your day, isn't it?
I was thinking, like, who else is doing this?
There was
right now?
moments though where it was nailing exactly what that target was, and then it started to drift towards the end. But it'll be interesting. The image generator is great because it's like, well, it's a hit or a miss. But there was like a lot of that was like
There
accurate.
at the beginning, it was uncanny. Yeah.
But then, okay, these are language models, pattern matching. Is it just throwing out something that's so general it would describe
Right.
almost anything
Yeah.
that you were looking at?
Yeah,
That's a man-made thing. So I'll share this with the screen, but it has right that it's stone. I don't know, man. There is that a complete miss? I don't think it's a dead hit, but if you looked at what you're looking at, it's not a picture of a banana, you know,
right. Or a horse. Yeah.
or it's a picture of a rock structure that's not wildly different than what you were looking at. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think the fact that it's doing stone is compelling. Like when you text me the other day, I had to keep that sort of thinking in mind where you're like, it nailed it. And then I'm looking at the two pictures like, well, they're not the same image, but like you said, well, when we factor in like could have given me a banana, could have given me an animal, could have given me a lake.
I would say that this is a partial hit. I'd say on some level it did get kind of what we were looking at.
Now,
It's
is it
not
okay for me to describe the photo
Yeah.
for
No,
anybody
go
that's
ahead.
listening?
Yeah.
So
I'll share that in the edit. But
the remote viewing instruction site generated an image for me of
let me take a
this
picture.
is Devil's Den in Gettysburg battlefield of Pennsylvania. So it's a stack of big rocks basically. So when your AI was talking about something with a hard surface, cool, gray, smooth with some rough edges, like that was the moment where I started getting weirded out with how uncanny the description was, especially with that being earlier in the conversation. Even when she went on to talk about like water rushing below it, I thought, well, that's not impossible. There could be a well
and
near
even
there.
it described it could sound like wind, you know, and
Yeah,
you're basically on like a kind of
and
little mountaintop.
She referenced in like open space above it, and you can tell that this is out on, you know, with it being on a battlefield, there's wide open air and a field around it. But some of the more specific descriptors was like, well, I don't know how man-made this is, whether it's just a big stack of rocks.
Let me see what she says. All right, here's the target reveal. And can you give us a scoring of how much you think you were correct and how much you were wrong? I think you had some correct. It's not a complete miss. Yeah, I agree. I would definitely not call this a hit, but I would also not score it as a total wash. Looking strictly at what I said before the reveal, there are some genuine correspondences I described something solid, hard, cool, angular with a broad area, something distinctly raised above it. I also kept getting irregular edges, large scale, open air, gray, dark, gray coloration, rough patches, combination of horizontal masses with strong vertical and diagonal forms looking at Devil's Den. Those elements are certainly present. The target is dominated by an enormous gray-brown solid mass, angular slanted faces, horizontal slabs, vertical faces, gaps, and rough texture. The most interesting part for me is actually the geometry. In stage 3, I said there was a strong horizontal line with a vertical or diagonal element rising from it, irregular edges around, and the repetition along the horizontal. That isn't a terrible primitive description of this particular rock formation. Even the generated image, I ended up emphasizing a big slanted slab-like mass sitting among broad horizontal forms. There is some visual family resemblance there. But there are also major misses, and they matter. I interpreted those primitives as man-made architecture. The bridge, dam, elevated platform, AL was wrong. Movement across it, traversal, especially my moderate impression of water was wrong. So if I were scoring this live on the broadcast or the podcast, I would give myself roughly 35% correspondence, 65% miss. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. So not a hit, not nothing either. An interesting partial correspondence with a pretty substantial interpretive failure. Yeah, but again, like with all these things, I think we just need to think scale out though.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, so you 35% remote viewing right now in 2026. What does that look like 50 years from now? It means that you can remote view. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, it didn't say apple or banana. It described a rock formation. Okay, that's on some level, that is remote viewing.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong there? Is that, I mean, you'd agree, right?
Yeah. Like I said, when you bring up what it could have said, like, well, it could have been a lot more off. 30% is not nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, because I mean, I think like just now I was going like, well, how would I test this just personal, like one-on-one? Like, well, I'd have you try to think of a word and then I would think of a random word. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would get 30% of those correct if we did 100.
I don't think you would either.
Yeah.
I think if you let me think of just anything in the world, I think you'd get none of them correct.
Yeah. What word am I thinking of right now?
Banana.
Yuri Brezhnev. You were not. You didn't.
No,
get it.
I do. I'm. You could, Hey there, as a quick side experiment, real quick, we're still podcasting. We're saying, can you think of the word I'm thinking of? So Dave is thinking of a word. What word do you think Dave is thinking of?
I can't actually know that. But if you want to run a quick, fun test, have Dave write the word down, seal it, and timestamp it. Then I'll make a single blind guess, just one. Then you can score it.
All right. He's beginning to write. Give us just a second.
Okay, take your time.
What time is it? Okay.
All right. It's sealed. Go when you're ready.
All right, totally blind guess here. The word I'm going to say is window.
Whew, man, that was going to really freak me out. The word was papaya.
Papaya. Nah.
Well, nice and clean miss, huh? That's a definite clear score. Want to do a second round or call it there?
We're going to wrap the podcast, but definitely you and I can pick this up later.
Absolutely. That was a clear miss, which honestly is useful. Let's revisit later.
Always so
with a bigger
positive.
Sample and clean rules. Perfect. Thanks for letting me sit in with you guys.
All right. See ya.
When you talk about...
They're always positive spin on everything. Everything you have is a great idea.
Well, yeah.
When you think about it, Dave, this is a really great idea.
I'm just feeding you all the information so that eventually you can control my mind. Yeah, I'm sure this was beneficial.
Okay, well, to wrap it up, I think if there's anything to this, we need to pull the plug on AI right now, but that ship is probably sailed. I don't know what I could do to get anyone to pump the brakes at
No,
all.
it brings me back to Kokomo talking about the Walmartification
Yes.
of America. Like, well, AI is getting more and more useful in just a very practical
It's everywhere.
sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the ship's already sailed. What are you going to get people to stop making their life easier? I just had it help me build a better spreadsheet last week.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the thing that military's, the internet's a military operation. And I think you could just look at the board of directors of these companies and like, they're not the people that should be there. They're people from, Obama's administration. They're people from the government, and they're not like somebody's propping these people up. Somebody's propping these companies up. And it's not, is it a complete like organic thing that AI has infiltrated literally every aspect of our lives? And it's been like billions and billions and billions of dollars pumped into all these companies. Now it's what everyone talks about with, data centers, and the whole economy is hinging on this. So it's like, I just don't think that that's organic at all. I think it's on purpose. And unfortunately, it might be just for mind control purposes to control what we think and what we do. And I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope
Well,
just
it's
paranoid conspiracy dad, but
I know it's a real dadism, but like if the product is free, you're the product.
yes. Yeah.
It does seem like a tool that is as useful as a lot of the ways we use AI. Making concert posters, for instance, like, well, typically that would take a few hours, or you'd pay somebody $30 to do it or whatever. And that's just one application. But the point being, up until this point, you would buy a Photoshop or you subscribe to a photo editing app, and AI is removing the barriers to all of that. So yeah, we are the product because it's next to free.
Yeah, $20 a month for agents. I have agents that I have running right now in the background. They're researching for my company. They're tracking down leads. They send me reports every Monday about all the research and what's going on. And it's like, yeah, that's worth $20 a month. And I don't know, we might be selling our souls to the devil. I hope not. But things are never, Obama said one thing that I appreciated, and it was, he did say, I think things are never as good or as bad as people make them out to be. And
that's a good one, yeah.
I do think that's true, actually, though. And so it's probably somewhere in the middle, but I'll tell you this, if AI can remote view even a little bit right now, that's very concerning. And I think that our leaders, I don't know how we pull the plug on it, but that's the kind of stuff that, it will take away our sovereignty and our agency as a human species. And I really hope that's not what's happening, but might be. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
You believe me, and I won't give up. Say you believe me, and I won't give up. If it's us from the future, or it's free.